This is an Arizona tea can. I'm thinking of modeling it in Blender, so this video will be about that. And it's a real American one. If you look carefully here, I'll move it into place here. The units are actually in fluid ounces there. And that's very big for a can. It actually converts into 680 milliliters, so it's larger than a British pint. I bought it in a so-called American drinks vending machine, but the vending machine actually had Fanta Orange in it. We'll gloss over that for now, of course. To make a long story short, I thought it might be an interesting thing to model in Blender. I accepted from the beginning that this was going to be very hard from the standpoint of texturing, because it's a cylinder and I didn't want to cut it apart and roll it out flat to scan. So we'll see how it goes. Top will also present some challenges, although I think I'll just make it one texture so that I can model it open or shut. I do like that it has the 5-cent refund markings from the US. So here we are in the latest version of Blender, version 2.79. One key change since I think it was 2.76 is that you can't do a background image anymore, like I like to trace. So what we're looking at here is not a background image, but an empty object. So we go to object mode here, add empty. You can add an image. There's the frame for the image. If we open the image file, say just one of the photos I took for my research in this, there it is, and it becomes an object. You can use it to trace, but we're not going to use that. Undo. So anyway, we'll also undo that frame. Object undo. Now I'm going to go back to where I was, to the front view. Notice this is the wireframe view of the can model, which I've already started actually, and I've traced it to the photo as before. And one of the things you can see right away, if I do Control keypad 2 to go pan down here, it's another feature I haven't shown much of before. I haven't generally worked on a model this small. You can see I've just pulled down the bottom rim of the can to this line on the photograph. But photographs are not usually orthographic view. They may approach that depending on the lens that you're using. This was only a camera phone, and unfortunately it's really nothing special. And you can clearly see, if you move in here, that this is in perspective, so that this is totally out of scale. And if we use the grease pencil tool over here in this tab, so grease pencil tab, ruler protractor, drag a ruler up from the bottom of this, Control keypads again to move into position in the view. This is a little bit tricky, but if we go down here and I try to measure this with the ruler, it is far more than the 6 millimeters that I know for a fact this distance is from the larger part of the can, like the maximum diameter, down to the smaller diameter of the bottom rim. So you could say, well, I could put the ruler here very roughly and pull down, but it's very hard to get that into precise position, and I can't save it. If we look at Control left mouse button, in theory that should hold it there, but it actually created me another ruler there. If I undo that, or delete it rather, it sends me back. But then if I escape out of this, I don't have my ruler anymore. If I go back into the ruler protractor mode, it has not been saved. And I've looked this up online, and nobody thinks you can actually do this for real. So the ruler is nice to check your work in rough terms, but it's not actually a precise engineering style solution. So you could, in theory, create very carefully scaled ruler models for particular lengths, and this, again, that's a little bit elaborate. I think that if you're an engineer, probably what you should do is make a model this complex in pieces using the scale. If we go to object mode here, so you can scale it to the correct size. If I can get this to work. Solid. Front view. You can scale it to the right size here. Actually, what I should do is I should apply that scale. Object, apply, rotation, and scale. I haven't done that yet. You see these go to 1, which is how it should be. But this is not really to scale. It's not properly to scale. And the question is, if you are in a hurry, you're not an engineer, you don't want to do this in pieces, what can you do? My solution that I discovered for this is I can create a cube by going Add Mesh Cube. I'll zoom this out. This is totally the wrong size. I need its height to be 6 millimeters, so I enter that in. And then I'll make it 1 centimeter across, 1 centimeter. I will apply the scale, so Object, Apply, Rotation, and Scale. And then I'll move it into position so that I can actually use it to measure this. I basically will line it up to the bottom rim there. As precisely as I can. Again, as I've said, this is not an engineering project, so I can afford for it to be fractions of a millimeter off. Try view to the left. Try to line it up just right there. View to the front again. Alright, so now we take this rim up here and we pull it down. Well, first I have to select the correct object. Right click on the can, edit mode. Now I've got to select all these vertices here. So I will skip over this in the video. So by right-clicking with the shift, I've selected all of these vertices in multiple. I'll still make sure that our alignment is correct here. Left seems more or less correct. Front doesn't look correct, but it is. So right drag on the blue arrow here and we can pull it down so that the rim now is the correct, roughly the correct 6 millimeters height. And it will not be perfect. Not at all, but it's close.